So I cover a paranormal case, and then Colleen covers a true crime case. And I'm gonna start today, unless we had other stuff to say before we start.
Well, something to note is I don't really ever know what Tayler is gonna cover, and she never knows what I'm gonna cover. So it's gonna be a surprise for all of us.
Yeah. And since it's St. Patrick's Day, I'm going with the theme of fairies, because in Irish folklore, that's a big thing. And also, I did not know that leprechauns are actually considered a fairy.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah. They're actually, well, when I was researching this, they said that they were the rejects of the fairy world. And that's why they're always grumpy. I didn't say that. It was literally word for word. They were the rejects. I know. Okay, so I'll go ahead and get started. Everybody, I've got something to tell you. So, for centuries in Ireland, people believed the world was not made up of only what could be seen. Just beyond ordinary sight, hidden beneath the hills and fields, there was said to be another realm belonging to the Aoshi, which was the fairy folk of Irish legend.
The fairy folk. I love that.
The folks of the fairies. Their name means people of the mounds, a reference to the ancient burial hills scattered across the countryside that were believed to be entrances to their world. These were not thought of as tiny, harmless fairies, but as powerful supernatural beings who lived alongside humans, watching closely and reacting when their land was disturbed. Many of the old stories say that fairies were once part of a race of godlike beings, said to have ruled Ireland long before humans arrived. When they were defeated in ancient myth, they did not disappear. Instead, they were believed to retreat underground, living on in hidden kingdoms beneath the hills, becoming the fairy folk people that people would later fear and respect.
Love that.
Because of this, certain places in Ireland were avoided for generations. Circular fairy forts, stone rings, and even a single hawthorn tree standing alone in a field were believed to belong to the fairies. And disturbing them was said to bring terrible luck. Even in modern times, there are stories of roads being redirected rather than cutting down the tree because they feared the fairies would come for them.
I aspire to have that level of fear that a fairy can have.
I feel like you have a level of respect for the fairy kingdom already.
Yeah.
Because you said you've had some experiences of fairy rings.
No.
Or you thought you saw a fairy ring or something.
I just think everything is a fairy trap, so.
Or a fairy trap, that's
Yeah.
what it was. I mean, I feel like that's a healthy way to look at it.
Yeah.
You just don't want to disturb anything.
Mm-hmm. Just don't touch it.
So, people said the fairy rings were formed when the fairies danced in circles, leaving behind a mark that showed the boundary between their world and ours. Because of this, humans were warned never to step inside one. Some stories say that anyone who entered a fairy ring might suddenly hear strange, beautiful music that no one else could hear. But the longer they listened, the more they went into a trance, and it was hard for them to leave. And it was believed that once the fairies noticed you, they might not let you go. So creepy.
I love it.
Other legends say stepping into a fairy ring could pull someone into the fairy world itself. In these stories, time did not move the same way. A person might think they had only been gone for a few minutes, only to return and find that years had passed and everyone they knew was gone. Which I think we've also heard that with the Mexican folklore, the duendes.
The duendes, yeah.
There was also darker warnings that did not involve disappearing, but misfortune instead. Old Irish beliefs said that fairies protected certain places fiercely, and entering a ring without permission was seen as an insult. People who stepped inside were said to become sick, lose their memory, or suffer a streak of bad luck that never seemed to end. All from stepping into a circle.
I love it. Curse them.
I know.
How dare they?
Get out of my circle. Among the many beings connected to the fairy world is one of the most recognizable figures in Irish folklore, the leprechaun. Today, the leprechaun is usually seen as a cheerful symbol of St. Patrick's Day, but older stories describe something a little different. Leprechauns were solitary members of the fairy world, rarely seen with others, and known for their cleverness and their love of trickery. They were said to work as shoemakers for the fairies, and people claimed that if you ever heard the faint tapping of a hammer in the distance with no one around, it meant a leprechaun was nearby repairing tiny shoes. And then again, they're seen as grouchy and they're the rejects of the fairy world.
I also love that the women fairies are just like, the men will do the work for us.
And I also read leprechauns they're only men. You never see a woman leprechaun.
Yeah.
I never realized
that.
I never realized that till I read it. I was like, oh, okay. So legends often said that leprechauns guarded hidden treasure, and that if a person managed to catch one, the leprechaun would be forced to reveal where the gold was hidden. But stories almost never ended with humans actually acquiring the gold. The moment the person looked away, even for a second, the leprechaun would vanish, sometimes leaving treasure behind as an illusion, or leading the person to mark a tree that later turned out to be hundreds exactly the same. And so they're referring to one of the oldest leprechaun stories is this guy found a leprechaun and he showed him where the gold was. And the guy's like, okay, I'm going to go get my shovel. But he tied a red ribbon around it. And then when he came back, all the trees had red ribbons on it. So the leprechaun was like, sucker. But not all encounters with the fairies were playful. Some of the most unsettling stories involved what were known as changelings. In Irish belief, the fairies were said to sometimes take humans, especially children, and leave a changeling behind in their place. The replacement might look the same, but it would act differently, almost as if it's like a shell of the person and their personality's like completely off, and it's just like unsettling. People believe the fairies would steal healthy humans to strengthen their own world, leaving one of their own disguised as the person who had been taken. These stories were told for generations, but in the late 1800s, one case became famous because it showed that the fear of changelings was not just old folklore, it was something people still believed to be real. So, what happened in 1895? A woman named Bridget Cleary fell ill after coming down with a severe fever. Bridget was known in her village as an independent and strong-minded woman, but when her condition worsened, her behavior seemed different enough that her husband, Michael Cleary, became convinced something was wrong in a way that could not be explained just by sickness.
She had fairy fever.
Mm-hmm. He began to believe that this woman in his house was not his wife, but a changeling left behind by the fairies. Also, imagine being sick and dealing with this shit. I'm not a fairy. Over several days, family members and neighbors gathered in the home, trying to force the supposed fairy to reveal itself. They questioned Bridget again and again, made her drink herbal mixtures, and carried out old rituals meant to drive the fairy away. As her fever grew worse, Michael became more certain that the real Bridget had been taken to the fairy fort nearby, and that the only way to get her back was to get rid of the creature that had replaced her. So, during one of these attempts, he held her near the fireplace, shouting that she was not his wife and demanding the fairies to return her. In this chaos, Bridget was badly burned and died from her injuries.
Oh my God.
I know. Sorry, it took a turn.
She does this. She's like, it's fairies, it's fun. And then it's like somebody burned to death.
Somebody died. Her body was later found buried in a shallow grave, and when Michael was arrested, he insisted that his real wife was still alive in the fairy world and would return riding on a white horse from the hill where the fairies lived.
Okay, Michael sounds like the one who had the...
Yeah, Michael Michael needs to go to the fairy world and never return.
Exactly.
They're like, we don't want him.
Yeah. He could be one of the leprechauns. The rejected ones.
You can repair tiny shoes.
Yes.
The case shocked Ireland, and Michael Cleary was convicted of manslaughter. I felt like you would appreciate that story because I don't do the true crime, and it was like a little true crime tidbit.
Yeah, that's my portion of the podcast. How dare you?
Sorry. Blame the fairies. Stories like these are why the fairy world in Irish folklore was never treated like a harmless story, People believed they could bring good fortune, but they could also just as easily bring illness, bad luck, or something much worse. Again, there were warnings never to step inside a fairy ring, never to dig into ancient mounds, and never to cut down a lone tree growing in the middle of a field. So basically, if you ever come across any of those, just walk around them. Leprechauns, changelings, and the fairies are all part of the same hidden world beneath the hills, a world people believe is still there, just out of sight, but they're always watching. And that was the story of the fairies.
I love that very much.
Great. Thanks, guys.
This time. All right, well, we still got a little taste of true crime, but I do cover the true crime portion of the podcast. So Tayler and everyone.
I'll never do it again.
No,
I'm just kidding.
That's fine. I forgive you. Our first fight. Okay, Tayler and everyone, I've got something to tell you. And because this is our St. Patrick's Day show, I knew I had to find a story so aggressively Irish that by the end of it, you're going to want to order a pint, blast some Dropkick Murphys, and maybe just punch someone in the face.
Love that.
Tonight, I'm going to be telling you about Ireland's secret society that was formed to take down oppression, the Molly Maguires.
Ooh.
So as we like to do, every hero needs an origin story, and for the Molly Maguires, we have to go back to Ireland in the 1700s, where at this point, if you were an Irish Catholic, life was not going great. Because at that time, most of the land in Ireland was owned by English and Anglo-Irish Protestant landlords, and those landlords often didn't even live in Ireland. So cue our favorite Mean Girls quote, "She doesn't even go here." And the Irish Catholic farmers were basically tenants renting tiny scraps of soil just to survive. And if they couldn't pay their rent, they were evicted immediately. And eviction in rural Ireland was very Irish. They didn't just kick you out. They tore your house down, burnt your crops, and threw you and your family onto the street.
Oh my God, they took it personal.
They took it deep. And they don't just evict you for missing rent. They could decide to replace you on a whim with a new tenant, which many times that new tenant was a cow.
Aww.
Because cattle were very much more profitable than farmers and cheaper. So I like to imagine that when they were replaced with the cows, the eviction person would show up and be like, "It's time to moo."
They're like, nut.
So the farmers are getting pissed because they are basically being treated worse than cows, and they decide to start fighting back. They start organizing in secret. Across Ireland, underground groups start popping up, and these groups had super cute names. We've got the Ribbon Men, the Rockites, and then just the White Boys.
The White Voice?
White Boys.
Oh, okay.
Not even men. But eventually, we did get the Molly Maguires. These men would gather secretly at night to plan raids. They'd meet at back rooms of pubs. No shock there. And raids were basically like nighttime attacks against the landlords. It usually consisted of about 10 to 30 of the farmers, and they'd show up around midnight to just absolutely wreck shit. Fences would be torn down. Fields were torn up. Sometimes the livestock would be attacked. The poor cows. But, I mean, they were replacing them, so. And barns were burned down. In the most extreme, their targets were beaten and shot, the landlords. So these raids were violent and meant to send a very clear message. Basically, folk right off. Now, obviously, if you're doing illegal midnight revenge missions, you need a disguise. So sometimes they would wear masks or veils, but sometimes, and this was a favorite of the Molly Maguires, they would wear dresses, which I was like, we should absolutely plan a Molly Maguire drag brunch for St. Patrick's Day.
That would be amazing.
And people would know that these were the Mollys because they were not subtle. The Mollys would leave a note behind that basically said, "From Captain Molly," or just "From the Molly Maguires." Mm-hmm. Now, we don't exactly know who Molly Maguire was, but there were theories. One story says that Molly was a real woman who had been evicted from her own home, and local men started using her name as a symbol of resistance. Another theory says Molly Maguire was the owner of a tavern where these secret meetings took place. And the third, which is the most badass, is that Molly Maguire was actually a woman who led the men on their raids, which I was like, our Irish outlaw queen. But the truth is, we don't actually know. Molly might have been real, she might have been a myth, but what we do know for sure is that we respect any woman who inspires a bunch of drunk Irish farmers to go beat up people in the middle of the night wearing dresses. So, the Mollys were active in Ireland for decades, kicking ass and taking names while looking stunning, I'm sure. But then something happened in the mid-1800s that changed everything. In 1845, Ireland was hit with the potato famine. Ever heard of it? Over the next several years, about 1 million people would die from starvation or disease. Another 2 million people fled the country entirely. And a lot of those immigrants ended up somewhere that is going to be the focus of our Molly Maguire story tonight, Pennsylvania. We are going stateside, folks. So Pennsylvania becomes a hotbed for Irish immigrants because of the mining industry. Irish immigrants arriving in America didn't exactly have a lot of job options, and one of the few industries willing to hire large numbers of poor Irish laborers was the coal mines. And unfortunately for them, the coal mine owners of Pennsylvania were about to prove to be just as brutal as the landlords they left behind. Not only were the conditions in the mines brutal, they were working about 12 to 16 hours a day. Men worked deep underground with very little ventilation, constant cave-ins, explosions from coal gas, and equipment that was questionable. If you got injured, too bad, rub some dirt on it and get back to work, which I thought was especially rude because they're working in the mines, so they're already like covered in dirt.
It's getting more dirty.
Yeah. Take that dirt, just rub it right in. Now, something else to note was that most of these mining towns were what were called company towns, which meant the mining company didn't just employ you, they owned everything. They owned the mines, the houses, the stores, and sometimes even the church. They owned everything from groceries to God. Sketchy. Many miners weren't even paid in actual money. They were paid in this thing called company scrip. It's fake
like
money.
A scam already.
Yeah, it's fake. It's fake. It's real
Here's
fake.
some coins.
It doesn't even have a T at the end of it, so
Script.
yeah. So fake money that they could only use at the places that the company owned, and the company could charge whatever prices they wanted. Super scammy. Basically, the system was designed to keep workers permanently in debt. So like if somebody started making money, they would just raise the prices again.
Dang.
You've gotten too much script, man. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I don't think coal miners are the type of people I would want to piss off, let alone Irish coal miners. And remember, these guys had just come from a culture where secret societies had been used to fight oppression. So guess who was ready to put their dresses on again? The Molly fucking Maguires. So they suit up or dress up and start raiding. And that's when Pennsylvania starts getting a wave of brutal attacks. Mine supervisors are being shot in their sleep. Foremen are being ambushed on the roads. Company officials are attacked and killed. It is all out violence. And after every attack, everyone knows one thing. The Mollys did it. But the thing about the Mollys is that everybody knew they existed, but at the exact same time, nobody could prove they existed.
It's like a legend.
Yes, there were plenty of rumors that the Mollys had made it to Pennsylvania, but it was very much like, nobody better talk. You don't want to go against the Mollys.
You don't want to see that dress.
You don't want none of this.
Mm-mm.
So the biggest turning point in these attacks happens when one of the big mine bosses, Frank Langdon, is killed. I said the Mollys had reached boss level. And not only that, but Langdon had a reputation for treating Irish miners particularly harshly. So this sent like a massive message. Coal companies started panicking. Mine bosses began traveling with armed guards. Imagine being like, don't let the man in a dress, like.
Don't let them get me.
Yeah. Which, ultimate respect. I feel like, yeah, So some company officials even refused to leave their homes after dark, and newspapers started running stories about what they called the Molly Maguire terror, which I said great punk rock band name, calling dibs right now. But so these mine owners are freaking out, and they do what all rich people do when they have a problem. They hire someone to take care of it. Mm-hmm. And you might remember this name, Tayler. Mm-hmm. They end up hiring Pinkerton National Detective Agency.
I do remember that.
Yeah, Jennifer Morey. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But if you have never heard of the Pinkertons, these guys were basically the FBI of the 1800s. They tracked criminals, protected banks and trains, and they solved major crimes, but they were also extremely famous for something else, union busting. So here's the plan that the Pinkertons and the coal companies come up with. They are going to infiltrate and spy on the Molly Maguires and take them down. First thing they need is someone who can go undercover and not be detected. So let's meet our spy on the inside, James McParland, a young detective who is new to the Pinkerton agency. James was an Irish immigrant himself, so ultimate betrayal. He was young and could work in the mines alongside the Mollys, and most importantly, he could drink, which is actually really important because the miners spent most of their evenings in the taverns, and being able to hold your liquor was a rite of passage for these guys. So they thought that a new guy in town with a liver stronger than 10 men could catch the eyes of the Mollys. So James McParland moves to town. He starts working in the mines, starts schmoozing and boozing at the pubs, getting into fights, which only helps his cover. Now, James was supposed to write daily reports of his findings, but he gets so paranoid about getting caught in this investigation that he's terrified to buy ink because he thought it would be suspicious.
Honestly, I kind of get it, though. It sounds so scary.
So he starts writing his reports in homemade ink that he made from water and soot from the mine. I put soot in there just
my favorite word.
Yeah. Tayler didn't know what soot was.
And I didn't. I was trying to educate everybody one night. I was like, do you guys know what soot is? It's in the fireplace.
She had like a whole page that she had to throw away. So
anyway.
Sorry,
Thanks
personal inside joke. So he's making his homemade ink with soot from the mine. And I said, honestly, if that doesn't scream committed to the assignment, I don't know what does. But finally, James does earn the trust of members of an Irish organization called the Ancient Order of the Hibernians. And while I think anything called the Ancient Order of anything is a cult, this one was actually legit. It was basically a support organization for Irish immigrants. They'd help them find work, or they would help families struggling. Now remember, the coal mine companies want to take down the Mollys and the community they support, the Irish immigrants. So they become convinced that this Ancient Order of the Hibernians is actually a cover for the Molly Maguires, and they have James focus on finding all of these members. And James does. For 2 years. He attends all their meetings, takes notes, and writes his soot reports and sends everything to Pinkerton. And in 1875, Pinkerton and James decide that they have enough information to take these guys down. So the arrests begin. Authorities start sweeping through the coal towns. Miners are arrested in their homes. Some are arrested while working in the mines. Others are dragged out of taverns. Dozens of Irish miners are thrown into jail, and they are all being like randomly charged. So they're like assigning basically like, you did murder, you were a conspirator, like whatever, like it's like the unluck of the draw. Mm-hmm. And this is all coming from what James decided to write in his reports. Keep in mind, this was a drunk man who wrote in soot. And he's getting all of these guys arrested. So the trials of the miners / believed to be Molly Maguires begin, and wouldn't you believe it, it's totally rigged. First, many of the defendants were unrepresented, and shocker, they didn't have law degrees themselves, so they did not know how to lawyer in court. Then, the juries were often made up of mine supervisors and businessmen connected to the coal companies. So one by one, the verdicts come in and guilty, guilty, guilty. Eventually, 20 men accused of being Molly Maguires were sentenced to death. And on June 21st, 1877, a day that goes down in history as the Day of the Rope, 10 men were executed by hanging in a single day.
Dang.
Eventually, the remaining men were executed in the same way, and the Molly Maguires disappeared from Pennsylvania. One man, John Keogh, who was hung in 1878, was believed to be the ringleader of the Pennsylvania Molly Maguires. In 1979, so he was hung in 1878, just doing math really quick, that's 101 years later, 1979, Pennsylvania Governor Milton Shapp officially pardoned Keogh, stating the conviction of John Keogh was based on questionable evidence in a trial that was influenced by anti-Irish prejudice. I think we can all let out a collective bruh. And that, everyone, is the insane, tragic case of the Molly Maguires and their uprising in Pennsylvania. I hope you all have a pint and a dress on St. Patrick's Day and pour one out for the Mollys.
Yay! I'm actually surprised there's not a band called the Molly Maguires.
There are some songs, and
There
there's a
is?
movie about them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I want to say Sean Connery's in it.
Oh.
Yeah. I think they left out the dresses, though.
What?
That was a
That's
detail I really
iconic.
stuck onto.
They should have. They're like, this can't be a comedy. This was actually very tragic.
It was tragic, but
Yeah.
they were badasses, so. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. We do like to open it up in case we like to ask if you have something to tell us. And
Yeah, if you have any like ghost stories or, any kind of scary stories.
yeah, any experiences, or we can always talk to you after the show.
Yeah. Or you can grab the mic, tell everybody in the room.
Kylie! Come here, Kylie. Come sit with me. Kylie is our resident skinwalker expert. Kylie, what story do you have for us tonight?
My uncle just moved in not too long ago, but we have a house and right behind it there's a bunch of desert. And we first started walking in the desert and there was these paths and there was a bunch of trash and backpacks that were on the floor. We went to, after 10 minutes or so, we went to go in the neighborhood on the road, and then where the part where you leave your neighborhood, there's a desert on that side too, and we went on that side, and rocks were getting thrown,
Oh.
and there were a lot of weird noises in the bushes, and
What kind of noises?
it was like a bunny.
Oh.
So
Kind of cute.
Or terrifying.
And we went to go look in the sewers to see if there was, because on the other side of the sewers, it was just another opening.
Mm-hmm.
And Steven claimed to see something in there.
He claimed.
And I ran so fast. And when we were running, rocks were getting thrown fast.
Oh,
And
my
the first
God.
time.
That's scary.
And I was so scared all the time.
So what's your theory? What do you think it was?
Well, I've heard that skinwalkers, the last victim, they can make the sound.
Oh, okay. So you think
So-
maybe it was a bunny was
Bunny?
the last victim?
They're supposed to haunt.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
They-
Tayler.
Colleen.
They do eat other animals. Sometimes it's supposed to help them shapeshift into
No.
another animal. But usually if it shapeshifts, or it won't look anything like the normal animal. It'll look
That is
really
spooky.
different. And we went back.
Why?
My uncle came with us and he made me go back again. And that time we saw something really weird. There was a lot of mountains, but I saw something really weird. I didn't know if it was there, but there was a bush, but I realized there was something like sticking out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say anything. I was trying to ignore it the whole time.
If you don't acknowledge it, it's not there.
Out of my head, and it looked almost like a bunny ear.
Oh no.
That is spooky.
Almost.
But off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was more of like a reddish gray looking color.
Ew. I don't like that.
It could have just been a dead bunny in the bush, but
I like
Still
the
don't like
skinwalker
that.
theory.
no. But maybe a skinwalker could have ate it and tried to hide it.
Yeah.
But that was all that happened, and every moment was not fun.
Thanks, Kylie.
Thanks,
She's
Kylie.
a skinwalker professional.
Yeah. Good job, Kylie.
Yay.
Who wants to follow that?
That's hard to top.
Well, thanks everybody for coming. If you liked our show, we do more of these, but also please follow us, rate, review, subscribe. I've got something to tell you. We're on Spotify, Apple Music, all of the platforms, or you can find us at IGSTTYpod on Instagram.
Yeah, and we also have an email, IGSTTYstories, if you do have a story you want to tell us later in written format, and we can read it on a listener episode, or you could send a voice memo or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, guys.